While investing, one must have a very balanced frame of mind. Very, very important. One must avoid greed and avarice. What greed does is that it makes you take risks that are not suited to your temperament. And that, my friend, can lead to big losses and a very unpleasant peace of mind kind of a situation. But first, a story. There was once a farmer in a village who used to have a crop of watermelons. His harvest of watermelons was a much sought after event, not only in his village but across the entire district. People from near and far came to witness the beautiful, large, tasty watermelons that the farmer used to harvest. It was the pride of the village. The farmer, in fact, used to run a competition among children for eating watermelons on the eve of the harvest. So children of the village were all gathered. Thousands of them would come and enjoy the feast of watermelons, the best of watermelons. The biggest of watermelons was reserved for these children. And they would have a fantastic free meal while there was a competition of who can eat the most watermelons going. Over periods of time, the old farmer died. His son inherited the crop. The son continued the farmer's practice, but unfortunately could not replicate the father's success in the farm. The watermelons weren't as spectacular. They kept getting ordinary in nature, and eventually people lost interest in coming to see the farm, and things, over a period of time just dropped off. Now it's important to go and find out what changed in this whole thing. When one looked at the situation, one found that the old farmer, when he gave the best of melons to those children, he also told them to not bite the seeds but spit the seeds out into a small bowl for each of the child. Now these bowls were then collected back and the seeds from these went back into his farm. So in effect, while he did, and the best of the watermelons, the biggest and the most tastiest watermelons, came back into his farm as seeds. And again, so each year progressively they got better. Unfortunately, when the son took over the business, he decided that the biggest watermelons fetched the biggest market price. So the biggest watermelons he sent out to the marketplace, and the smallest and the not so tasty watermelons is what he reserved, because he reckoned that they don't earn any money. It's anyway doing a free favor to these children. So he did not give them the best watermelon. Turns out that after these kids ate, those were the seeds that went back into the farm. So the son's greed actually came back in terms of preventing him from enjoying the success that his father had enjoyed. Friends, we see this all the time. When we try and speculate, we want to make that big return on investing, but we don't understand that these big investing journeys where greed is involved also involves huge losses. We all want to grow wealthy. Nothing wrong with that. Except that when we want to grow wealthy overnight, that's where the problem arises. We start taking undue risk, unnecessary risk that doesn't suit our temperament, and thereby leading to a big loss of investments. We need to guard against this. Greed is not a good bedfellow for investing. Why? Greed is an emotion. Greed cannot be a strategy. And any emotion is bad for investing. When one is powered by greed, then he forgets to do the basics of due diligence. Is it the good investment? Will it create value to me? So on and so forth. He forgets asking all these questions. Therefore, it becomes very speculative. Last but not the least, losses that you incur because of greed actually pushes you farther away from creating wealth. In fact, it's the opposite of creating wealth. It creates losses for you. So extremely important to separate greed from investing and recognize this emotion. There are 5 ways to overcome greed in investing. It's simple checklist to ask yourself. First, is this part of my plan of reaching a financial goal? Is this planned? That's the first question to ask. Second, have you understood the pros and cons, the positives and negatives of that investment? Have you understood the worst case scenario? What can go wrong? And what's the worst case scenario? Fourth, have you understood what is the quantum of your overall money that you're planning to deploy here? Last but not the least, what is the cost of not going ahead with this investment? Will it change your life? Is the question. If you answer these 5 questions, you will find your answers whether you need to go ahead with this investment or not. And whenever you are tempted because of high returns of an investment, ask yourself these 5 questions. I'm sure you'll find your answers.